Tito clung on until he was in his 80s, an old man set in his ways and out of touch with the fast-changing world around him. And it seemed that everyone, from his closest advisors to ordinary Yugoslavs, had some idea of what would happen when he died. Richard West was a reporter for The Observer sent to cover Tito's death in 1980. His first visit to the region was as a young man posted there during the Second World War.
When Tito was actually dying, I was sent to go to Sarajevo. This was 1980. This was a time when Islamic fundamentalism was becoming a great threat to the Soviet Union, as it then was, and various other parts of the world. And there was talk about whether the Islamic fundamentalists might try to take over. I talked to the sort of religious leaders, the mullahs and so on. I remember hearing people, Bosnians of different religions, sitting around a table and wondering out loud whether, when the old man goes, we'll all start murdering each other again. And, people sort of politely laughed, but there was an undercurrent of knowing that this was probably going to happen.
World statesman Tito was, but also a man of the people. And so today it was the turn of those people, of Serbs and Croats, of Slovenes and Macedonians, of communists and Christians and Muslims that make up Tito's Yugoslavia, to pay their respects. Yesterday the Communist Party hierarchy had their turn. Tomorrow world leaders will be arriving for the funeral. But this day was for the people.
The Serbs live their history, I would say, like no other people on earth, and it's important to them to get it right and not to falsify it. I'm standing here on a cold, snowy day in Belgrade, outside the Museum of Yugoslav History, which used, of course, to be in part the home of Josip Broz Tito. Tito is not forgotten. Twice a year, politicians come here and lay flowers on his tomb. One time is his birthday, and another time the anniversary of an assassination attempt against him. I'm about to meet Sonia Bezerko, a prominent human rights campaigner in Belgrade, who was in the foreign ministry at the time of his death, and to witness the funeral. And this would be his desk here, and of course the bust in the corner.
Yes.
So what happened to all the statues, the busts? I mean, they were all over Yugoslavia, weren't they?
Yeah, they had taken them away, most of them.
And you had, how many embassies at that time?
190 or something. But also, I must tell you that Belgrade at that time was also top diplomatic places in the world, because it was also an important place to monitor Eastern Europe and Soviet Union in general. And the fact that the whole world leadership was present at his burial, at funeral, is also indication from today's perspective that it was really an end of an era.
In life, Tito bridged the divide between East and West, between the developed nations and the Third World, between democracies and dictatorships. And so it will be in death. Seldom can the leaders of nations, so at variance with each other materially and politically, have come together to mourn one man. And it's fitting for a man of such stature that it will be an opportunity for those leaders to meet and talk and perhaps advance the search for peace and understanding that Tito devoted his life to. He would have approved of that. But that is tomorrow and the day after. Today is the day for the people of Yugoslavia, Tito's people, to pay their respects.
I don't think people were aware what will become after, but that was an emotion which apparently could be seen throughout different segments of societies, especially in the inside, in the provinces, but also the number of the people who were present here indicated that something truly big was happening, in the sense that the country will probably undergo great changes after the end of his era. So obviously, there were many indications that the country was under different pressures, but disappearance of a man who could arbitrate. Immediately after his death, Yugoslavia ran into deep economic crisis as a result of this world recession, which she couldn't cope with because there were no mechanisms for that. Already in 1981, we had these shortages of energy, of electricity, of certain goods.
Yugoslavia's economic crisis had started in the 1970s. It was fueled by unsustainable borrowing and an increasing reliance on foreign loans to fund day-to-day expenditure. The failure of the state to pull Yugoslavia out of recession provided an opportunity for nationalist leaders on all sides.
I am one of the rare men who spent with Tito 22 days, 1.5 months before he went in hospital in Ljubljana. In November 79, Tito spent 22 days in Bosnia. All the time I was with him. My opinion now is the same as before. I think that Tito was really great statesman.
Raif Dizdarovic was someone who spent his life and career fighting against these rising nationalist threats, but who came to realize with the passage of time that the measures he and Tito took to counter them may have had the opposite effect. Comrade Dizdarovic is 83 years old. He's had quite a life. An officer in Tito's partisans, a diplomat, foreign minister of Yugoslavia, speaker of its parliament, and one of the presidents of the rotating presidency after Tito's death. In the grand Viennese cafe of the Hotel Europa in Sarajevo, switching between English and his mother tongue of Serbo-Croat when he couldn't find the right words, he reflected on the final years of the country he helped to rule.
Postoje razne teorije.
There are various theories what broke Yugoslavia.
To je bila greška.
First of all, I think it was mistake of the Communist Party of Yugoslavia.
Da ilustrujem to na 2-3 primjera.
Just let me illustrate this on 2 examples. In our constitution in 1974, we stepped one step forward in relationships within federation.
Mi smo napravili grešku.
We made a mistake in how I would say it, in reconstruction of relationships in federation. Actually, 2 mistakes. When we actually decided long time ago to move towards decentralization, but at that time we were not giving the competence to economy. And then we got tendencies in each republics, like they are defending national interests. And actually that was kind of basement for nationalisms.
So the reforms encouraged nationalism.
Yes, that's true.
In Dizdarovic's view, Tito made 2 mistakes. He shirked the necessary economic reforms and opened the gates to the rising tides of nationalism. The 1974 constitution was intended to deal with the crisis by loosening the federation and giving the republics more power to run their own affairs. Tito understood the dangers of this. His answer was to run the republics by committees under a system called self-management. He would remain president for life, and after his death, the presidency of Yugoslavia would rotate every year between its republics and autonomous provinces. The wonder of it is that it lasted as long as it did. The economy was in ruins, and the more affluent republics started to blame the poorer ones, like Bosnia and Macedonia, for dragging the country down. Why should Slovenes pay their taxes to subsidize Macedonians?